Hi, in this session, you will learn how to troubleshoot your PPC campaigns when they're not working as supposed to or are just burning your advertising budget without bringing any results. We will analyze what you can do to turn the performance of your PPC campaigns around by going through some real case studies step by step to help you to unlock the potential of your PPC advertising efforts. And today, my guest will be Chris Rawlings from Sophie Society, and as always, he's super ready to share everything he knows about advertising to help you to succeed. So let's bring Chris to the stage together with me. So, hi,
What's up, guys?
great to see you as always. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Lisette. I'm good. I kind of miss our crazy times in Prague already. Prague always gets wild. It was a
Exactly.
lot of
So,
fun.
So who doesn't know, then Orange Click recently organized a conference, European Seller Conference in Prague in March. And I think we also have some of the event attendees as viewers today. So I think people
Nice.
enjoyed your presentation as well as the advanced workshop, which you were also hosting this year. And we actually already announced the dates for the next year. So you and everybody else can be excited to join us again in Prague, March 2025 as well. And you can read more about the event from the video description below. So yeah, shout out to Prague.
Yes, dude. It's so awesome. One of the best events ever. I'm missing it. But yeah, back here in Jersey, ready to rock and roll. It's going to be an
Cool.
awesome session today.
Yeah, it's been actually, yeah, I think we did one webinar shortly before Brock. So yeah, I'm happy to have you back on our channel. And PPC, troubleshooting PPC is always that is very useful for the sellers. I'm excited about today's webinar. But as always, let's start with let's officially start the webinar with your introduction. And also, can you give us a brief overview of what Sophie Society is doing and how do you work together with different brands who are selling products on Amazon?
Yeah, I'm Chris Rawlings. I've been selling on Amazon since 2015. Um, it was kind of like what initially gave me my freedom. I started traveling the world running a brand. Um, I grew my first brand very, very quickly, which, kind of jettisoned me into investing in other brands and partnering with brands. And that's my primary focus now is Sophie Society, where we partner with brands, take over the PPC, utilize PPC data and advance PPC strategies to grow them profitably. So I'm going to be going, I've launched over 2,200 products on Amazon.com. I also ran a product launch platform. So that's partially how I did that. um, and, but I've also driven over 212 million in Amazon PPC revenue alone. So inside Sophie, since we're so PPC focused, we have an internal PPC mastermind. We have, hundreds of PPC accounts that we're running PPC on. So all of the stuff that I'm sharing today is from our actual experiments and our actual knowledge. It's not like, blog article stuff or YouTube video stuff. YouTube videos can be good. But this is all like real knowledge, like real experimental knowledge. And I'll go through a couple examples and cases of times where we were struggling, with PPC that was unprofitable or losing lots of money. And we'll talk about what we did. And then I'll go into some of our like frameworks and methodologies so that you guys can plug the same things into your brands, wherever you're watching in from.
Okay, sounds good. And yeah, I also attended your advanced workshop in Prague, which was also super practical. And I think that's why a lot of the videos we have recorded with you in the past on our Orange Click YouTube channel about PPC, but also about how to improve the conversion rates and click-through rates are so popular among the viewers because they can listen to you, see the case studies you're kind of going through step by step, and then they can try to apply the same knowledge to their own business. So that's kind of cool about it. So today,
Totally.
yeah, what we're gonna do is that you have prepared a presentation for us and those case studies as well. And then after we go through some of the main information, then actually we're gonna have a Q&A session. So at any point, if you have any questions for Chris throughout the session, drop them in the chat box, and we're happy to have Chris answering to your questions related to your businesses and PPC performance. So yeah, I think we're kind of ready. Also, one more thing, whenever you like this webinar or you learn something new, don't forget to like the video as well. And if you're new to Orange Click, then subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see webinars like this in the future as well and other interviews we publish. So yeah, Chris, let's rock and roll and share your screen and let's go straight into it.
Awesome. Okay. So we're talking about troubleshooting today. So this is what's happening when your PPC isn't working. So ideally, if you're watching this now, that means you're running PPC and there's some kind of issue with it. Either you're not able to grow sales, or too many of your sales are coming from PPC and not enough from organic, or your PPC is driving sales, but they're really unprofitable, or you're using PPC to drive rank and you're not getting enough ranking from it. Whatever the issue is, hopefully you'll learn something today that'll help you out with that. I'm going to go through a couple of examples, tell some stories, and then I'm going to walk through actual frameworks that we use and methodologies that we use that we constantly refer back to, kind of like a Bible, when we're troubleshooting PPC, just so you could kind of understand how we do it. So I already introduced myself, so I'm going to speed through these slides really fast. But I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've actually launched more than just e-commerce businesses. I've launched a crypto fund that was the 4th ever securitized crypto fund in the world. I'm an 8-figure mentor in the Titan Network, which is an amazing mastermind. Highly recommended to anybody looking to join, a great network of sellers. I invest in and found brands. And I'm the founder of Sophie Society, where I got all the PPC experience that I'm going to share with you guys today. I'm going to skip a little bit of my background story, but when I first started my first brand in 2015, it really gave me my freedom through a mix of luck and good design and good product selection. I grew that very, very quickly to multi 7 figures in under 8 months. And I ended up moving to New Zealand and having a bunch of adventures. Then I realized it was time to anchor down and actually get serious and build an empire. So I realized, in order for me to hit my own goals and also to have the impact that I want, I needed to partner with other brands. And that's when I started really doing serious volumes. And since then, I've driven over $212 million in just PPC revenue, Amazon PPC revenue, through my own brands, the brands that I invest in and partner with, and through the brands that I launch. So everything that we're covering today is based on experience. It's not like something that I grabbed from like a blog article or something like that. We run internal masterminds inside Sophie that in my experience are best in class. We pull in like actual account problems and challenges, and we discuss them and troubleshoot them all together, and figure out the path forward together, and collaborate on new features, new phenomenon that we're seeing on the Amazon marketplace, and new experiments that we're running on the marketplace to see what works. So that's really the way to distill truth from first principles, is through actually coming up with hypotheses and testing them. That's the scientific method, which I brought over because before I got into business, I was actually in the science field. I got a degree in physics and I was going to be a physics researcher, but life took me a different direction. But bringing that scientific methodology, into the Amazon world has been extremely beneficial for me. And I hope that's one of the things that comes out of this session with you guys, this interactive session, is that methodology of observing the data, coming up with hypotheses, determining what kind of experiment or action you could take based on that, and then observing the results of it. And if you continue to run that over and over again, it makes it inevitable that you improve. And I'll show you guys materially exactly how to do that, because that might sound kind of conceptual or ethereal right now, but I'm going to run through examples of how we've done it in the very recent past, on some real accounts, and also what the actual methodology looks like. And I've drawn out a few diagrams to help you guys. So yeah, the screen you're looking at right now, this is just me going to Amazon randomly and typing in a search term and then doing 4 full scrolls on my laptop screen. And the yellow highlighting is sponsored results. The blue highlighting is organic results. So if you actually measure it out pixel by pixel, if you take the first 4 to 6 scrolls of Amazon, it's typically 50 to 55% of the actual space is ad space. And so you're actually really only getting about half the space with organic results. And the other half is PPC space, which is nuts. Once you go further into search results, the actual ad, the percentage of ad space versus organic space becomes less. But the problem is most people, they don't go more than full 4 scrolls. That's why ranking page 1 is so important. And the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of search results, right? So, so, so yeah, I like this graphic and starting out with this because it just shows how important PPC is on Amazon today. It really is like the crux. It's like the wheel hub. It's like the main way that you execute your strategy on Amazon. And it's also the main source of data that you use to determine your strategy on Amazon. So it goes in both directions. It's like your main source of data and it's your main arm. So it's your sensor and it's your actuator on Amazon. So, so yeah, that's why it's so important. And that's why, if you're here, you probably have some kind of issue because this session is all about troubleshooting PPC issues. And, my goal is for you to come out of this with a framework that allows you to solve the issue or figure out what the issue is. So I'm going to jump into an actual example. So this is an account that we partnered with because we saw the potential in it, even though its state when we partnered with it was pretty bad, actually. This little graph, and I should have made this bigger, but this graph you could see. So the red bars are advertising costs. The blue bars are profit. So if the blue bars are going down, that means the profit is negative, meaning they're making a net loss. So each bar is another month. So we took them on the first bar, and you can see their negative profit is very significant. It's in the high thousands that they're just losing net every month. They're selling a lot of units because the line you could see with the dots is the units sold, but they were just selling tons of units at a loss. So we partnered with them and, we realized like this brand has just been losing money for so long. It's a great brand, great products, great founders, but the PPC structure was just off. So what we did was, over the course of 6 months, we completely turned this brand around and went from very, very unprofitable, almost to the point where it's like, this has to be shut down because there was like no like light at the end of the tunnel, to profitable. And since then, the profit has only increased. And I took this screenshot for a presentation that I did a couple of weeks, or actually a couple months back. So the profit has continued on this trend. And this is a kitchenware products brand it's unique. It's a very unique. It's a kit. It has differentiating features. It wasn't like a Me Too product. The brand was great, good founders too. The problem was just the optimization. So what we did to fix this and to just like stop this burning house fire is we looked at the data and made database decisions on the PPC. So we went in and we identified the search families with high click-through rate and high conversion rate. We identified the search families with high click-through rate and low conversion rate, and identified the search families with low click-through rate and high conversion rate. We didn't look at the search families with low click-through rate and low conversion rate because we don't really care about those if they're not getting much traffic anyway. So these are really the main things that we want. And if you're wondering what I mean when I say search family, that's also known as the semantic core. It's the broad category of keywords that you're talking about. And this is one of the most critical things to be able to effectively diagnose issues in PPC. The best way to organize your PPC campaigns is by search term family, or shopper intent is another way to say that, or semantic core is yet another way, where, I might have 20 or 25 keywords, all with significant amount of search volume, that are all surrounding for kids. And and my product, targets kids. So that's going to be one search family. But I might also have a whole search family around non-toxic. I'm going to put all those terms together. And when I do that, then when I look at my campaign by campaign stats, I can see not just how they're performing based on number of sales or based on ACoS. I can also see deeper metrics like, how is the click-through rate of this search term family versus other search term families? How is the conversion rate of this search term family versus other search term families? And then I can actually make real changes to not just the campaigns, but also to the product assets. So I'll walk through some examples of us actually doing this, but this is the basic essential feedback loop. And I have a diagram drawn of this that I'm going to show you guys so you can kind of visualize it. But this is what you want to do. And if you don't have your campaigns segregated like this, it's okay. I would recommend that you migrate to a structure like this because it allows you to get the data so much better. But you can still get plenty of actionable data out from your search term reports or from whatever tool, if you're using a tool to manage your PPC. This screenshot is from Sellerboard, which is a great tool for analyzing profit. I have no relationship with them whatsoever, but I use them on my brands. So once you identify these, now you know what's high click-through rate with low conversion, what's low click-through rate with high conversion, and what's high click-through rate and high conversion. And by the way, this is all assuming that it's significant amount of traffic. If it's not a significant amount of traffic, it doesn't matter if it's high click-through rate or high conversion. You don't really care about the terms that get one sale every 3 months, right? Once you identify those, that's your data sources. Then you want to prioritize, in our cases, what we did with this brand that was where the profit was the problem. It wasn't the overall sales volume. There's plenty of that. It was the profit that was the issue. We prioritized profitable targets. We turned marginally profitable targets profitable. So how do we do that? Well, if you're looking at a target that's getting a lot of sales, but it's at an A cost that's too high, or you thought it would be a ranking campaign, but it just topped out in the ranking impacts that it was going to have, then you can figure out a way to make that target more profitable. So if I'm targeting a keyword or a family of keywords, and I determine like, man, I don't know if I should keep this running or not. It's running at an A cost of 60%. It doesn't seem to be gaining me any ranking, but it's generating a lot of sales. What do I do? And we encounter this all the time. The game is, how do I make that target profitable? And one of the primary things that you can do is affect one of two things: the click-through rate for that target, not your general click-through rate, but for that target, and the conversion rate for that target. So if the target, going back to the example before, is non-toxic, and I realize I'm getting a ton of sales from non-toxic, but they're not really profitable, and I don't really think it's generating me any more ranking, should I shut this campaign down? Before you decide to do that, see if you can lean it down and still run that profitable target by changing your primary image, changing the order of the keywords in your title, changing for the click-through rate, right? Your primary image and your title are the main things that you can do to optimize your click-through rate for a particular target. So I might show on the packaging non-toxic. I might actually put the text non-toxic on the packaging, or show somehow that it's safe, that it can be used like directly with the skin, like through the image itself. Or I'll move non-toxic or other iterations of that word closer to the beginning of the title. If I do all those things, that means I'm going to be getting more clicks from this term. And yeah, we're paying per click, right? It's pay per click. So more clicks is more payment, right? But that helps your PPC because it also means more clicks for people who search that organically. And it makes you more likely to get organic ranking result from these campaigns. So this is how you turn marginally profitable targets profitable. You take the data, look at it, and then see what changes you can make. Yes, in the campaigns, but also in the product assets, the thumbnail and the product listing. And that's how you change the economics. That's how the economics change with the same amount of traffic. So we talked about click-through rate, but you could also do the same on conversion rate. The non-toxic, put images in the A+ content that show that it's non-toxic. Add into the brand story that making safe, non-toxic formulations is part of the company's culture. Add all of that stuff, the secondary images, the bullet points, everything that you can do in the listing, even the top voted reviews, that you can't directly influence, but indirectly. These things all have an impact on that particular flow of traffic. And that's how granular you have to get if you're really having issues with your PPC. Is you're not just talking about your general click-through rate or your general conversion rate anymore. You have to go one level deeper, where you're segregating your traffic into these categories. What is my click-through rate for this category of traffic? What's my conversion rate for this category of traffic? And how can I improve that? That's the depth that you have to go to solve very tough challenges with your PPC economics. So we ran the essential feedback loop for this, which is what I'm describing now. That is what we call the essential feedback loop. I'll show you a drawing of it later so you can see exactly what it looks like and kind of visualize it. And then we also launch and split test creative specific to the search family. I have a great example of this. But what this basically means is it's similar to what we were talking about before with optimizing your click-through rate and conversion rate, but with the creative that you're launching for your sponsored brand campaigns and your custom image and custom video sponsored display campaigns. Sponsored products, there's no creative that you can do, right? Amazon determines how that shows. It just looks like a regular thumbnail. But sponsored brand and sponsored display, and sponsored brand especially, um, you can upload custom creative, and now you actually have to upload custom creative, and that's great. Uploading custom creative, and you can really crush with that. But a level deeper is actually tailoring custom creative to the search terms that you recognize need help. So these marginally profitable targets, again, the ones that you determine are driving lots of sales, but the ACoS is you're barely able to handle the ACoS, or you're not really sure if it's even worth it to keep that campaign on. Here's another answer to that question is, what custom creative can I spin up for the same target that will get way more clicks and way more conversions for the same amount of ad spend? And we have campaigns. Actually, I shared one of them at the Prod conference, Lisette. You might remember. We have campaigns, and I shared one that was like a dog carrier, and another one that was like a pizza, like cook at home pizza pan. And we have campaigns where it's the same target, one sponsored products, and one is a sponsored brand video. And the sponsored brand video has an ACoS that's nearly half of the sponsored products. The volume isn't quite as high because you get a lot more volume with top of search sponsored products ads. But the ACoS is so low that it evens out the general ACoS for that target, and it allows you to keep running that. So you can keep running that if you think it's helping you with ranking. And it also makes the general target more profitable, right? So all of these things combined, if you keep doing it month after month, that's how we achieved this graph. And you could see actually we had declining sales, but that was on purpose because so many of these sales were wildly unprofitable and not generating rank either. So it was like, why are we even doing this? We just determined what targets are actually working, what targets are almost working, but they're not quite. And then we focused only on those. And you could see once we leaned out, now this got into Q4, so we had an artificial bump there. But as we were increasing the profit, the units started to increase back up. And after this, actually, both the profits and the units continued to rise. So that's an unprofitable
Chris,
account, right? Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead, Lisette.
So one thing, if you can go back to the previous slide, let's clarify one thing because we received a question. Can you once more say what is search family, or what do you usually consider as a search family? Because you had it here on the
Yeah.
slide.
Yeah. So it's a category of keywords that all have the same shopper intent. So the shopper has a certain intent. Like if I'm selling supplements, for example, some people are going to search directly for the product, turmeric 30 milligram capsules, and that might be really high search volume. So I'll have a whole family that's about capsules, turmeric 30 milligram capsules, turmeric double strength capsules, all of that, right? But then I'm going to have a whole other search family that's not about the product, it's about the problem. It's going to be like anti-inflammatory supplements, or supplements for joint pain, or supplements for mobility, things like that. That's a whole family that I'm going to put those together. So I'm grouping it based on the shopper intent. A lot of times this is just there's no difference between this and semantic core, which is just one word. That's your root keyword that's in all of them. That's the example that I used before for kids. If like I have a whole family of search terms that's for kids, and that's one of the use cases of my products is, say it's a iPad holder, but a lot of the customers use it while they're driving for their kids because it goes on the back of a seat, right? So that's not the only use case, but it's one of the main use cases. And a lot of my terms have for kids in it or kids in it. I'm going to group all those keywords together. And that lets me know for that shopper intent, for that particular use case of my product, how am I doing from a click-through rate perspective, from a conversion rate perspective, and from an overall volume perspective. And that is the knowledge that allows you to go deep enough to really take the actions that you need specific to that shopper intent. And there's not going to be a ton of these. It's usually you have anywhere between 5 and 12 major categories. Sometimes you can have more, but usually not. It's usually going to be like half a dozen, somewhere around there, like 6, 7, 8 major families that of intent. And any keywords that don't fit into those families, you can just group them by search volume, and that's fine. But yeah, so I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And I also, Tadara says thank you. And I think this question and answer is a perfect example why participating in a webinar like this is a good idea. So if you have enjoyed the webinar so far, don't forget to like this video. And if you have any questions following along what Chris is explaining to us today, please do leave questions, because I just saw Chris is more than happy to provide answers and kind of think along with you regarding to your PPC challenges. So yeah, we're ready to continue, but wanted to highlight that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Keep the questions flowing, guys, and we'll have a whole discussion period afterwards too, so that we can, cover everything that comes up for everybody. Really glad that we're keeping this interactive. That's my favorite style. So here's another account that we manage that now does 7 figures a month. This happens to be a supplements product. So this brand didn't have really a profitability problem. It had pretty good margins, but you could see that it had a very intense period of growth here, and then it kind of flatlined for a number of months, actually over a year. The challenge with this brand was, how do we grow without losing the margin? It's kind of the opposite problem of the other brand, where we're like, we actually don't really care about the growth. It's so unprofitable. We have to prove that this account can even be profitable and then go back to growth. This is the other problem. It's very profitable, healthy margins, but unable to grow without sacrificing those margins. So in this case, it's the same basic process. You're still identifying the targets by search term family or shopper intent, and then determining what to do about it. In this case, we're running the essential feedback loop for both click-through rate and conversion rate, just like the example that I showed in the last visual. We're planning the campaign based on the product lifecycle. So some of these products were brand new. Some of them had been selling for a really long time, and the same campaign structure was being applied across all of them. That's totally wrong. The products have a life cycle on Amazon, and the campaign structure has to be tailored towards where they're at in that life cycle. And I'll show a graphic of what this life cycle looks like. We have a little drawing of it that we made that we constantly reference and update. So I'll show that in a second. But you can't apply the same PPC strategy to a product that's been on the market for 3 years and has tens of thousands of reviews to a product that is just now being launched, because they're two totally different scenarios, right? So we tailored the campaigns based on the product lifecycle that they were at. We realized that a lot of the campaigns were generating data that was not being utilized by other campaigns or other ad types. We call that campaign chaining. So I touched on this in the last example, but if I see that a target is generating a lot of sales in sponsored products, but it's not quite profitable, well, that's definitely going to be the first hypothesis I test for the target in my sponsored brand with custom creative. Now I know, okay, I've got a great target, generates lots of sales. It's just not quite profitable, and I need to keep running it because it's holding my rank, but it's also losing me a little bit of money at the same time. So that's going to be my first hypothesis of what creative I create to run my sponsored brand ads, right? Now I know I know exactly what I need to do. I take data from one campaign and I plug it into the creation of other campaigns. And we call this campaign chaining. There are tons of ways that you do this. A lot of you guys are familiar with the classic strategy of having a research campaign and a discovery campaign, a research campaign, and a performance campaign, where the discovery campaign finds new targets. The research campaign takes those targets and finds the exact search terms that are performing well. And then you isolate those and put them in a performance campaign so that you can constantly adjust that on a very specific and calibrated basis. That's campaign chaining. So linking the campaigns to one another, making sure that you're gathering the data from campaigns and incorporating it into the decisions for other campaigns with the same targets or other campaigns with the same goal. We also put in place effective retargeting. This is a consumables brand, so retargeting was a big miss. Not having retargeting in place purchase retargeting and views retargeting. This was kind of like an easy low-hanging fruit win. Split testing custom creatives, custom creative that's specific to search family and buyer intent. And I put SVB, but I meant SBV. SVB is Silicon Valley Bank. So, but yeah, sponsor brand video ranking campaign. So, this is kind of like a big debate that I won't get into in the Amazon PPC community is, does sponsor brand video contribute to ranking like sponsor product does? Our finding is, yes, sponsor brand video, when you're targeting a keyword, does contribute to ranking. Now, top of search sponsored product campaigns may be like the most powerful ranking effects that you can have, but they're also going to be by far the highest cost, highest CPC. So per dollar spent, if you have good creative, actually focusing more of your ad spend on keyword targeted sponsored brand video campaigns can be even more powerful per dollar. I'm talking not per click, but per dollar spent, than sponsored product top of search campaigns, which everybody else is going to be, competing fiercely for, because the industry standard is that's what you do to rank. But it's not the only thing that contributes to ranking. So we did that as well, which leaned out some of the campaigns while allowing us to spend more on the targets that we're working. So, and we've done this a bunch of times. I just put a bunch of screenshots here because this is like this feedback loop, this hypothesis, get insights, test, iterate, come up with a new hypothesis. This loop works. It basically makes it inevitable that the truth comes out. Sometimes it's a really hard truth. You might find out, wow, the truth is it's a product issue, which is really tough, right? Because you either need to fix the product or dump the product and start a new product. But one way or another, it forces things forward when you run this feedback loop. And I'm going to show you guys a visual of it in just a couple slides so that we can walk through, I would take a screenshot of that once we get there, because you can kind of keep this on your desktop and use this as your Bible for what to do when I don't know what to do to grow my brand or to make it more profitable. So this is what I was referencing when I was talking about the brand that needed to grow sales profitably, is tailoring the campaigns based on the product lifecycle. So we segregate products into 3 different categories: the launch phase, the expansion phase, and the harvest phase. So every product we have is in one of these categories. The only other category would be dead, meaning it's not selling, the units are in inventory, and nothing's happening with the product at all. Then it's not in any of these phases. It's just a dead product. And that dead product can either be revived or liquidated. I actually have a whole guide on that, a whole ebook. It's like a 15-page ebook on what to do with dead products. So if you guys want that, you could hit me up. I'll have my contact info later on in the presentation here. I've never actually released that publicly. It's only been to people who attend our events, but I'm happy to send it to you guys. So the 3 phases, and I actually have an entire presentation on this with you, Lisette, actually, or I think it was maybe with Augustus, but it was with you guys, Orange Click. So you guys can look that up, because we won't have time to go super deep in this, but I'll just do a broad overview. So the launch phase is 30 to 90 days. The point of it is to establish rank, get sales velocity, and you're done with the launch phase once you've achieved a profitable tacos, meaning I'm no longer losing money on this product. Now I'm out of the launch phase. That means your product is now steady state on the Amazon marketplace. And yeah, you can hop in between these phases, but generally this is how it goes. The main goal in the launch phase is to get these sales velocity, achieve that profitable tacos, and collect data, because that data is what you then use to really take off in the expansion phase. So your product is just a little baby, right? Your tacos is going to be somewhere between 20 and 50%. That's just the reality. I'm telling you guys, what, like it is. Sometimes some people don't like to hear that. That's just the truth. Sometimes you have a launch that just really takes off and the product is just super killer and just really resonating with the audience. We had this with a fitness product pretty recently. And it's just profitable from the get-go, which is crazy. But that's really the exception. Most of the time, you're going to be losing money for between 1 and 3 months of a new product launch. That's just the reality. The percentage of your sales coming from PPC, it's going to be anywhere between 50 and 90%, depending on where you are in the launch. In the very beginning, almost all your sales are coming from PPC, right? Because that's the only way you get visibility. You have absolutely no organic ranking. And then as you go through the launch, it should be less and less. But in general, it's in this range, 50 to 90%. If you go below 50, you probably aren't being that aggressive enough actually during the launch phase. You need to be very, very aggressive during the launch phase. So throughout the launch phase, your sales are increasing, your tacos is decreasing. And then you're out of the launch phase once you reach this inflection point where your margin exceeds your tacos. And that's when we consider the launch complete, and you now can move on to the expansion phase. Now, in here, I show a lot of the campaign types to do in each of these phases. I'm not going to walk through all of those because that would be like its own 2 hour long presentation, but you guys can check out the video on Orange Click if you want to find out about that. I just want to give you guys a broad overview of how these product lifecycle stages work. The next phase is what we call the expansion phase. So during this phase, your main goal is to grow sales without losing a lot of money. So you're really trying to gain market share, increase and maintain your rank for primary keywords, gain rank for more high relevance keywords that you haven't ranked for yet, do brand offense. So trying to find other product placement targets, ASIN targets that you can advertise on more profitably, but getting cheaper clicks. And you're really trying to increase the effectiveness of the ads. You're not really focused so much on like nickel and diming the efficiency. You're really just trying to find what works. Later on in the harvest phase, then we can really nickel and dime it. And we've got campaigns that we've been running for many months or quarters or years. And we really just hone in on efficiency and making it lowest ACoS possible. But in the expansion phase, you're still experimenting to find out what works well. So you're experimenting with new targets. You're experimenting with new creatives. You're experimenting with new ASIN and ASIN targets and keyword targets. You're experimenting with the click-through rate and the primary image on the thumbnail. You're A/B testing listing content. All of this stuff you're doing to try to gain that market share, and not lose money while you're growing the sales of the product and cementing your place. During this phase, it could be anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. Your tacos will be 10 to 20% usually. It can be higher than that, especially if you're running higher margin products. You'd have to go higher than that because the market will. And if you don't, you kind of get left behind. The percentage of your total sales that should come from PPC should be anywhere between 30% and 50% of your sales coming from PPC. If you have, say 38% of your total sales coming from PPC and the remainder is coming from organic, that's good. That's healthy. Yeah. And so again, I want your profit. So your profit is negative in the launch phase. In the expansion phase, it'll be anywhere between break even and 20%. 20% is maybe even on the high side in expansion phase. You might be not being totally aggressive enough if you're trying to pull too much profit out. But that's general guidelines there. The harvest phase, this is the type of product that aggregators buy. So during this phase, you're really trying to maximize profitability. You've already cemented your rank. You have tons of reviews. And for our products in the harvest phase, we're really just trying to pull out the max amount of profit. This is like an asset, like a real estate asset. Like once you have a listing like this, it's just like owning a house that you rent out to tenants or something. This is the type of cash flowing asset that you can sell, that's sellable. So you're trying to minimize costs, maximize profitability, hold your rank, do a ton of brand defense because all the other brands are going to be trying to steal clicks from your listings and your search terms. So you're going to max out the brand defense and you're going to increase the efficiency of the ads, not the effectiveness. You've already done that in the expansion phase, but the efficiency. So you're going to just really nickel and dime it and get it down as thin as possible cost-wise. And ideally, this lasts 2 to 5 years, sometimes even more, before there's some kind of decline, which does happen. But you can keep a product in harvest phase for a long time if you're continuing to pay attention to it. So the tacos here is going to be between 5% and 15%, depending on how lean you want to get. Percentage of total sales from PPC could be 20 to 30%. Could be more if you really need to be aggressive and there's a lot of competitors trying to take your spot. But in general, that's how to keep it super healthy and be able to pull profits out of the product. So this is what I meant when I said targeting the PPC to the product lifecycle stage, because as you could see, the goals at each stage are dramatically different. And therefore, the PPC structure that you have is going to be totally different. Way more of my campaigns are going to be about ranking and launch. way less of them are going to be about ranking, and way more of them are going to be about profit and harvest. So tailoring the PPC structure to the phase that the product is in the Amazon product lifecycle is one of the most critical things you can do if you're right now in the stage where you're just applying a cookie cutter approach to every single product. So this, I'm not going to go deep into. This is what we call the Amazon PPC tree of potential. I put a little QR code so you guys can download it here, but you can also just email me, hello@sophiesociety.com. But we put together this diagram that shows every potential campaign configuration in PPC in one big visual view. And it looks kind of daunting, but it's actually not. Like, if you zoom into it, you can see in sponsored brands, there's really only 3 big selections: product collection, store spotlight, or video. And in there, I can see all of the different targets that I can do, the different types of bidding strategies I can do, the different landing pages I can choose, and the creative. So, I share this, first of all, because I'm happy to share it with you guys. I go deep into this in our event, the Profitable PPC Challenge, which I'll tell you guys about later, but that's happening next week. We do it twice a year. But the main thing that I'm sharing this with you is what you want to do internally in your brand is put together your own little system of experimentation and tracking. Whatever's working for you, you should be keeping like a log and a journal of it and really viewing it as this ever evolving body of knowledge. That's how we came up with these frameworks that we utilize to grow our whole portfolio of brands, is through testing, iterating, finding out what works, documenting it, and coming up with our own, frameworks that actually work for us. And this is one of those frameworks, which we call the essential feedback loop. I know none of these are like, super beautifully designed. And the reason is because it's internal. It's for us. I'm sharing with you guys just the stuff that's for us. This is the stuff we're passing around for ourselves. So you guys are just kind of getting an inside peek here. This isn't stuff that I use as like a lead magnet or, a white paper or something like that. So yeah, what you're seeing here is what we call the essential feedback loop. You have the PPC campaigns, the listings, and the thumbnails on the right side. Those are the players of the game. Every day, they're running into battle. That's why I have this little icon of like this knight running into battle, right? All day long, the PPC campaigns you could think of as the horse, and the thumbnail and the listing you could think of as the rider. The PPC campaigns are carrying the listings into the marketplace. Otherwise, they're not seeing the light of day, right? That's how you're showing a top of search sponsored product campaign, only because the PPC campaign is showing you. So the PPC campaigns carry your listings and thumbnails into the marketplace. All throughout the day, that action is producing data. Some shoppers are clicking but not buying. Some shoppers are seeing but they're not clicking. Some shoppers are seeing it, clicking it, and then buying. Some shoppers are seeing it, clicking it, and then adding to cart but not buying. All that data gets collected in the form of these reports. You have the PPC search term reports, your business reports, and the brand analytics and search query report. And these are your data sources where you then gain insights. So you're going to look at the data in your search term reports and your brand analytics reports. You're going to gain insight from it, just like in the examples we talked about before. Oh, I have a search family that gets lots of clicks, but not many conversions. Maybe my thumbnail is speaking to this buyer intent, but my listing is not. So what's going on there? Why do I have a high click-through rate, but a low conversion there? I got to find out why. And then I have to determine what action to take because of that insight. So I looked at the data, right? Data analysis. I looked at my search term reports. I found that for one of my campaigns, that's a particular shopper intent, I found out the insight that they're clicking a lot, but they don't convert. So there's a lower than average conversion rate, but a higher than average click-through rate. So that's my insight. Now I'm going to determine what action to do about it. Well, my action can be taken either on the PPC campaign itself, on the listing, or on the thumbnail. So on the PPC campaign, I could say, well, maybe I'll just lower ad spend for that particular search term family because it's not working great, and I'll refocus the ad spend to other search term families that are working well. Or maybe if it's close enough, I say, look, this actually, the search term family is producing a lot of sales. They're just not profitable enough. Maybe since I know they're clicking, there's no issue with the thumbnail, but since they're not converting, there's an issue with the listing for people that are coming from this particular search term intent. So that is the insight that I want to act on. So now I know, okay, so I need to act on the listing player. That's the main action that I need to take in this case. Then the cycle starts all over again, right? Now I see, did that work? Am I now getting higher conversions for that particular search term family? If so, then that's great. I just made my whole product more profitable. If not, then I could try another thesis until something does work. And you just run this over and over and over again. And you're using this data to take actions, not just on your PPC campaigns, but the other way around. You're taking actions on the thumbnails and the listings. So that's the critical, this is what we call the essential feedback loop. If you're doing this properly, it makes it inevitable that you either improve or a very hard truth comes out that makes it clear what action you need to take. It makes it perfectly clear. So the only thing that can't happen is stagnation. If you're running this feedback loop, something's going to happen. You're either going to find out a hard truth of a hard thing that you need to change. Maybe I need to shoot all new video, or I need all new listing content, or I realize, oh, my A+ content really sucks, or my click-through rate is terrible compared to the other campaigns or to the other sellers, and you need to take tough action on that. Or you're going to consistently get better and better. And by the way, the external kickstart to all this in the very beginning is external keyword research. When you don't have any data to go off of because you haven't sold yet, you need to do extensive keyword research, competitor research, and marketplace research to be able to start with some data for your PPC campaigns and start with some content for your listing and thumbnail. You're just doing that research ahead of time. But once you're selling, you're not really going to use external sources of data anymore. You're really just going to use the data that you're collecting. So I hope that stuck. I hope you guys took a screenshot of this. If you didn't, you could do this now, because this really should be your Bible. Like, this is the thing that you need to do to consistently improve any account or any product's economics. Okay, so just a few examples here. So what to do when you have a high click-through rate, low conversion rate. So how do I see this? I can see it right in my ad console, because the ad console shows you these two metrics. And you could also see it inside brand analytics. So say extra strength is one of my families that, like, a lot of the products are extra strength, and I'm getting a high click-through rate. People that are searching extra strength are clicking on my thumbnail. But for some reason, I see that my conversion rate for the campaign with all of these keywords that have extra strength is lower than my average click-through conversion rate for the product. So now I know, okay, so I'm not emphasizing that it's extra strength enough in my listing. And that is the change I need to make in my listing. So it's not just general conversion rate. Now I know specifically what I need to do in my listing to increase the conversion rate. And what do you do if it's the opposite? So say you have a low click-through rate, but if they do click, they convert. So I see that my conversion rate for campaigns that say it has powder in it, so everyone that's searching for powder, they convert once they get on my listing. Maybe it's very clear, the delivery mechanism of this product, but they're not clicking. That's because it's not clear enough in the thumbnail to these people who are searching powder that this product has a delivery mechanism of powder. It might just show a bottle and you don't know what's in there, capsules or powder or what it is. So I'm going to change my title and split test my primary image until I get a lot more clicks, because I know they're going to convert if I get them. I see in the data that I have a high conversion rate for the word powder, but I can also see that my click-through rate is lower than average for these terms, right? So that's the kind of actions that you want to take. So here's a little example of what I mean by this. So say you have STEM toys, like learning toys. STEM is going to be one of your semantic cores. And then here's all the search terms you'll put in that campaign is STEM toys for 1-year-olds, kids STEM toys for 6-year-old boys, STEM toys for 5-year-old boys, STEM master building toys, STEM toys for kids. All that stuff is going to be in your semantic core, the campaign with the keywords that you group together. Okay, so here's an example of a way that we did this. You could see I have two thumbnails on the left side here, right? And these are examples because I didn't want to share the brand. But so these are the same basic product, right? But what we had for this particular product is this is like a glow in the dark, like fort building sticks, kind of like Tinker Toys. We were just launching this product, and we found out that our click-through rate was lower than benchmark, and our campaigns were very unprofitable with kind of like, like I was saying earlier, no light at the end of the tunnel. So what we realized in the data is glow in the dark was one of the major sources of traffic for this, because they are glow in the dark. So for that shopper intent, we were not getting a high enough click-through rate. And that was one of the biggest sources of traffic, was glow in the dark search terms. And so our thumbnail looked like the one on the left, where it just looked green, right? It doesn't look glow in the dark, it just looks bright green. We changed it to look radioactive. So like the one on the right, where it looks like it's like literally radioactive, like it's made of plutonium or something, right? That makes it clear that it's glow in the dark. And our click-through rate nearly doubled. It went from, this is the graph of click-through rate on the right side, it went from just under 0.2% average to just under 0.4% average, which, if you guys aren't used to dealing in numbers with click-through rate, you're dealing with fractions of a percent. But when you go from 0.2 to 0.4, that means you're getting double the amount of traffic to your listing. So even though it's just 0.2 difference, right? You actually just doubled the amount of traffic to the listing. So if you're getting 150 sessions a day, you just went to 300 sessions a day, because you're getting the same amount of impressions, right? But if you're going from 0.2% of those people clicking to 0.4% of those people clicking, that means you're getting double the amount of clicks for the same amount of impressions, i.e. double the amount of sessions. So that's how powerful this stuff is. The loop to run is review the data, determine the insight, generate your hypothesis about what to do about it, then take action, otherwise known as run the experiment, and then start over again and again and again and again. And for those of you guys that came here because you have a PPC issue that you need to, solve or deal with, this is how you're going to overcome it, is by running this exact loop. So I'm not going to go into this. This is kind of like the classic example of campaign chaining, where you have a discovery campaign, then a research campaign, and a performance campaign. A little note on this: we don't negative exact match when we isolate a keyword in a performance campaign in the research and discovery campaigns, because sometimes they actually perform better for whatever reason in your auto campaign or in your broad match campaign. So I threw this in here because a lot of people will make this mistake. Sometimes it does work and it's fine to isolate it, but a lot of times it's safer not to. I won't go super deep into this, but this is more of a culture thing. So inside your company, I recommend putting in place a culture of documenting what works, because otherwise you're just every day you're starting brand new, right? You're not building an asset over time. For us, we utilize these crib cards, and this is something that we actually teach and share in our Profitable PPC challenge we're doing next week, which you guys are welcome to come to. We still have tickets available. So we have segregated campaigns by ad type: sponsor product, sponsor brand, sponsor display. And we add to what our favorite campaign configurations are for each of the major goals: ranking campaigns, profit campaigns, shielding or defense campaigns, and research or discovery campaigns. And we created these cards that show what is the targeting, what's the targeting strategy, what's the bidding that works for us, what's the bidding strategy. We even included a little GIF here of showing it being set up in Campaign Manager. So it makes it very, very clear, right? So once we get a campaign type that works really well, we document it and we spread it in our company so that everybody else knows how to do it and knows that it works well. And that way, every time we find something that works, a process that works, a campaign type that works, a configuration that works, we add that to our body of knowledge, and then we're continually evolving and improving over time. This is the kind of culture you want to put in place in your company so that you can not start fresh every day. You end up being able to snowball all of the positive effects that you make and the learnings that you make. So I added a few example campaigns here for you guys to try out if you haven't, just for like, because this is a troubleshooting presentation, but I'm actually not going to be able to go through all of them. I think I had like 6 here. So let's get to questions. And then I have another presentation with Orange Click that walks through some of these that we can link to so that you guys can go deeper if you like to. But I think, Lisette, we should probably get into the questions because otherwise we're going to run out of time if I go through all these.
Whoa. There's a lot of information you shared today. I think like the first part of the webinar was already so useful and so interesting. And then you started to pull out even more information and more details and everything. And I think like people just went crazy. So no, I really do hope that everybody watching us live are enjoying the webinar so far. Really, if you learned something new from Chris today, please do like the video because Chris is counting all the likes. And that gives him the motivation to come back to our channel and share more of his knowledge with us. And again, if you're new to Orange Click, then also consider subscribing to our YouTube channel to see more webinars like this in the future. And we do have a couple of questions, actually more than just a couple of questions for you. But before we go to the questions, so you mentioned a couple of times that next week there's going to be a profitable PPC challenge that you're leading and hosting for the sellers. So let's first briefly talk about the challenge. By the way, the information is also in the video description below if you want to learn more. But Chris, what is this challenge about? What kind of sellers is it designed for, and who should really participate in it?
Yeah, so the Profitable PPC Challenge is an event that we do twice a year. The concept is we provide the information, frameworks, mentorship, and guidance of a $10,000 mastermind, but compressed into 5 days. So during these 5 days, it's a very intense period for us and for everyone who participates. But if you really commit to it, our promise is that you'll transform your ability to produce growth in your brand through PPC. No matter what stage you come in at, we plug you in based on where you're currently at. And through information and frameworks we deliver to you, assignments that we give you, and mentorship that you get in private chats, private groups, direct mentorship one-on-one, you learn exactly what you need to do in your PPC in order to advance your brand to the next level. So it's super, super intense, and you do have to be able to show up every day in order to sign up. We have 6 groups of 60 brands. So we don't just sign up like an unlimited number of brands. We have only 6 groups of 60. We have 50 out of the 6th group seats left. So we still have seats available. 5 out of the 6 groups are completely filled. And the last one, we have about a fifth of them in there, or 6 of them, I would say. And then we shut the doors. And you will be in a private group with those 60 brands. They'll be about at the same level that you're at. And with a ton of mentors and me. And throughout these 5 days, you basically get the guidance and get the information you need to advance your brand's PPC. So if you guys are really serious about becoming great at PPC and implementing these strategies into your own brand and figuring out how this applies to you, particularly in your particular case, I'd highly recommend that you show up. This is the URL here, ppcchallenge.sophisociety.com. Or you could scan this on your phone. That'll bring you to the page as well. And yeah, love to have you. Like I said, sometime this week, we're going to close down the 6th cohort. And at that point, I'm just going to shut the doors and we'll be all set and we'll start on Monday. But as of now, we actually do have seats available, and I'd love to have you guys jump in.
I wanted to say that I highly encourage people to join the challenge because if you already learned great things today within just 1 hour, imagine what you can do within 5 days being together with you and other serious sellers who are taking their PPC efforts and overall the Amazon business really seriously. So definitely worth doing. And I think we have had many Orange Click viewers participating in the previous editions of the challenge as well, and everybody has been liking it as well. So yeah, read more from the link in the video description. And now, as promised, we have questions. So let's start. First off, we have some fans of Chris here with us, as always. Great to see you here and hope to see you during other webinars as well. And now the first question will be in 3 parts. So let me kind of go through all of 3 parts, and then we're going to dive into it.
Cool.
So the first part is, when I run category price refined or expanded STP campaigns, I noticed that most of sales in my customer search terms come from my other products. Am I cannibalizing myself? And should I create a new expanded STP campaign and negate all my products so I'm only finding competitor products that I can steal sales from and not from my other products? And just to give you a little bit of background information, he says, I have 1, 2, and 3 packs in the supplement category. And yeah, this is kind of already additional question, but let's go back from the first one.
Yeah. So this is a really great question. So we're running expanded self-targeted product placement campaigns here in sponsored products. So Jahil has it sounds like there's 2. There's category targeting, price refined, and there's also expanded product targeting. So those are 2 different types of campaigns. So in category, when you're doing category and refining by price and star rating, so you can select particular brands to target, but you can't deselect particular brands to not target. So what I would do is, if you've already found that there are certain brands that are working really well, go into, when you click refine and you hit brand, it'll come up with a list of brands, and you could just click all the ones that are performing well, and it'll target those from every different perspective. It's targeting an entire brand, not just a product. So it'll target whatever products are performing best. So that's a good way to do it when you actually got some data to act on. Yes, if you're finding that you're only getting traffic on your own listings, you can negate them. However, only do that if you have defense campaigns already set up, because it's not cannibalizing your own sales to get sales from your other listings. It's great because you get a double benefit out of it. Not only did you get a sale, but you prevented another customer from taking the sale from you. So it's actually a double benefit. It's not only are you getting a sale, but you're preventing the loss of a sale at the same time. So like, I always like to say, like, if we could pay to just have white space on our listings where there would normally be a competitor advertising, we would pay for that, right? I would pay to just take all the competitors' ads off my listing and just leave it with white space. Well, you actually get to do that. Plus, you get to fill that white space with your ad, which you also are paying for. So that's the double benefit. You're keeping competitors from advertising on your listing, and you're advertising your own products on your own listing. So people don't realize the double benefit because you only see the sale. You don't see the prevented loss of sale. So it's super critical to always be running aggressive brand shielding and brand protection campaigns. So I wouldn't consider it cannibalization. One thing you can do on your expanded product targeting is, if you're doing self-targeted expanded product targeting right now, meaning you put your own ASIN in, the same ASIN you're advertising as the seed, and then you click expanded in the box for ASIN targeting, try putting in, instead of your own ASIN, put in a different ASIN. Put in whatever ASIN is performing best in your ASIN targeting so far. Like in the other, when Amazon does advertise your listings on other brands' listings, use those listings as the seed ASIN, and then click expanded, and then see what Amazon produces. And if you keep doing that, you should get further and further away from your listing and give Amazon the chance to find other profitable targets.
Okay, very good answer. And then let's take the second part of his question as well. So regarding to the question of the product, so how hard is it to merge the products after you get 30 wine reviews for each? Do you know to comment that
Oh, yeah,
process?
that's easy. You could merge them with the bulk file update or talk to the catalog team, and you could easily merge those products. And it's great because your reviews will combine. So that's a great strategy. We do it all the
Mhm.
time. It
Okay.
works great. You'll get 90 reviews. Well, you probably won't get 30 on each, but maybe say you get 20 on each, then at least you'll get 60 reviews when you merge all three. So it's a great strategy. It works great.
Okay, perfect. So let's take another one. So Rhonda is also thanking you for the great webinar so far. And then we have a seller who is asking, how do we gain our rank back if we lost it to low price competitor? Can we get it back with PPC?
Yeah, absolutely. PPC is the best way to get your rank back. Um, the one thing that you want to do before you start spending a lot of money on ranking campaigns is make sure that both your click-through rate and your conversion rate are above benchmark. So it's difficult to get a benchmark for click-through rate because you can back calculate it from brand analytics, but it's not always accurate. But you can get a pretty accurate conversion rate. You can get that from brand analytics, and you can get it from Product Opportunity Explorer, even for the search term. So if you find that your conversion rate is under benchmark, it's below average, and or your click through rate is below average. And for click through rate, you're going to have to benchmark using your own data um, and general guidelines. A normal click through rate is anywhere between 0.2% and 2%. That's a super big range. Normally, it's going to be sub 1%. But if your click through rate, across all your campaigns is an average of like zero point 0.1 or 0.05 or something like that, that's probably bad for the space. So just make sure that you maximize the click through rate and conversion rate first before you start dumping the money into the PPC. Like that same spend that you would spend on PPC, spend it having a professional create great content for your listing and your thumbnail, because it has a way better ROI, and it's because it's permanent. When you have a better click through rate, you get more sessions to your listing every day from that day on. So it's people really underutilize like really well done professional content before spending the money on the PPC. Now, once you do that and your conversion rate and your click through rate is above benchmark and above average, then yeah, using PPC is the best way for you to gain the rank that you lost due to the low price competitor. If you lost it because the competitor was low price, then go really hard on the brand story part of your listing. Like go really, really deep on the branding and the quality components of the product and of the brand story. So there's a brand story section where you can tell your story. I would have the picture of the founder in there, story of the brand's founding, any kind of mission that's related to the product, because that's what's going to make you different than a low price product coming straight from a factory in Shenzhen, right? They don't have a story. They don't have a face behind the brand. They don't have a character. They don't have an identity. They don't have a mission. They don't have anything except a very low price. So this is how you're going to set yourself apart and be able to not try to meet them on price, because you'll never be able to do that while still gaining sales at a high conversion rate.
And from the chats, I think we posted before a link to a playlist with different videos we have recorded with Chris in the past, including videos about click-through rate, conversion rate, brand story, A+ content. So oftentimes Chris has provided basically step-by-step guides how you can create everything on your own or work together with the freelancer if you have any. So go ahead and check out those videos as well. And another question from the same seller is, if we have two variations of a product, should we run PPC on both ASINs or only on the top selling one? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in the beginning, you want to run them on both so that you know what's selling the best. Then you're going to choose one that tends to get the highest click-through rate and run the traffic to the one that gets the highest click-through rate. Click-through rate is the important thing, because once they're on the listing, they're on the listing, right? They can see both variations. Whatever's getting the highest click-through rate, run the traffic to that. But for variation-specific search terms, you have to run it to the variation that is the best match. So if it's color, for example, you're not gonna run black keyword traffic to the red one. That one has to go to the black one, right? So for the variation-specific terms, those have to be to the right variation. For all the rest of the general terms for the product, choose whatever variation is getting the highest clicks and then just focus on that.
Excellent, as always. Thank you so much. And so we do have a handful of more questions for you, Chris. So thank you so much for sticking with us here and trying to answer to all of the questions. So Laurent has an interesting question. I think many sellers are wondering: would you wait until having reviews to start PPC on a new product launch?
No, you could start it right away. I mean, that's kind of part of the way that you get reviews. The thing to do is make sure that you have review systems in place. So you can't give anything in return for a review. You can't ask for a good review, but you are allowed to ask for a review. So one of the best ways to do this is you have a warranty or an ebook or an instruction manual or something else that you can give the customer in addition to the product that's digital, but you have them go to a URL or scan a QR code to get it. Once they go in, they put their information in, they go on your email list, they get the thing, and then you can send them a request down the line, after they've gotten the value and they've heard from you via email for a review for the product. And you should tell them, your story and connect them to the brand and connect them to you beforehand so they feel some kind of emotional connection to you. And then you ask for the review. And this can bump your review rate from 1% all the way up to like 4%, meaning out of every 100 orders, I'm only getting one review right now, to the point where out of every 100 orders, I get 4 reviews, or out of every 25 orders, I get a review, which is, way, way, way faster. And if you have review systems like that in place, then you know that if I run traffic to get 25 orders, I get a review from that because I know my review velocity. So that comes back to knowing your data, taking an action based on the data, and then running the experiment.
Okay. We have another question regarding launching, and probably it's a separate topic for even like another webinar, but try to give your best advice. So what's the best practice for launching a product in terms of PPC? What's kind of main tip you could give away for sellers?
Yeah, so you'll likely not be running profitable campaigns during launch. Most of your campaigns will be with the intent of ranking. So the classic ranking campaign is a sponsored product, single keyword, exact match campaign that is optimized for top of search. But a lot of times those clicks are very expensive. So there is nuance to it. If you're trying to optimize for top of search by having a high top of search bid adjuster, for example, for those of you guys, if I'm losing you, you choose your bid, then you also choose a bid adjuster, which allows Amazon to move your bid automatically up or down for a particular placement. So if I want my ads to show top of search, right at the before they even scroll, right under the search bar, I can put a bid adjuster for top of search anywhere between 100% all the way up to 900% of the bid that I put in. So that's what a bid adjuster is. You can see it inside your ad console. So the classic campaign, ranking campaign, has a high bid adjuster for top of search, and it's a single keyword exact match campaign. And that does lead to rank excellently. It's a good tool for it, but sometimes the clicks are too expensive. So if your CPCs, your cost per clicks, are so expensive that your ACoS is like out of control and you're spending so much on this campaign and just not getting enough back from it, then the thing to do is don't abandon the target. Find out what else you could do with the target. Maybe with that target, I can get traffic to rest of search, or I can get traffic from that target from product pages, which means that a shopper searched that keyword, went to another product, and then they saw your ad on that product. All of these things still contribute to ranking. It's just not quite as powerful as the top of search. But if the CPCs are so high in top of search that you can't afford it, then go to the other placements. It's totally fine. It still contributes to ranking. It still gets you sales volume, and it's still great during a launch. And then another thing to do is you can always transcend the math game by getting creative. If you get good custom creative, you can run sponsored brand video campaigns that target the same keyword, and you could get way cheaper clicks and sales, and that still contributes to ranking. Again, it may not be quite as powerful as the top of search clicks on a click by click basis, but on a spend by spend basis, I might be getting 3 sales for the same amount of ad spend in my sponsor brand video campaign that targets a keyword for every one sale I get from the same amount of spend on the top of search sponsored product campaign, because those clicks for top of search sponsored products are so expensive. So maybe, yeah, I get more ranking juice per click in the sponsored product campaign, but per dollar spent, because I have such better economics on my sponsor brand video campaign targeting the exact same keyword, I'm going to focus more ad spend on that sponsor brand video campaign targeting that keyword, because it's going to lead me to more ranking.
Okay, good stuff. So now we have another question, which is divided into two parts. So let's go through it. A good question, by the way. So I have several similar products with different variation. It's a mirror cabinet, and the variations are basically size variations. So would you recommend organizing campaigns according to search families and adding all products plus variations to them? Or would you rather keep organizing PPC campaigns by product parent ASIN and keep targeting similar keywords and targets for each campaign? So let me show you the first part again, so you can just kind of analyze the question a bit.
Yeah. So you definitely want to still organize the campaigns by product. I should have mentioned that before. I kind of considered that a given. So every portfolio in your campaign manager should represent one product, and all of the campaigns for that product should be in that portfolio. Now, once you're in one product, yes, I would still segregate the campaigns by search term family, but don't mingle the products. So you should do both. Segregate the campaigns by product by putting all the campaigns for a particular product in a portfolio. And then once you're in that portfolio where all the campaigns for that product are, segregate the campaigns by search term family or shopper intent.
Yes, very good. I was already reading a question. So there is a question. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with the handmade category, but Dodara has a question about it. So let's see if you know the answer to it. So do products in the handmade category get seen on the main pages like non-handmade products?
I don't have enough data from the handmade category to really be able to speak to this. But in general, Amazon's philosophy is whatever's getting the most clicks, it wants to show that to more people. So if you're optimizing click-through rate and optimizing conversion rate, there's a very low probability that Amazon would suppress you just because you're in the handmade category, as long as you don't have any stock issues, and as long as you don't have any customer product defect issues.
Okay, perfect. So I think that's all from the questions for now. I think we had people were kind of, as you see, very engaged and wanted to ask a lot of questions. So as we
It's
wrote
awesome.
in the chat box, when you are after maybe reviewing this session and have more questions, feel free to drop them in the video comments below, so we can ask Chris to come back to the video. But everyone is excited. This is super. Thanks for sharing. Freddie is saying, thanks, Chris, super helpful and strategic information.
Oh, Freddie.
And
Nice.
greetings from Argentina to you. And now a few questions about the Profitable PPC challenge. So as mentioned before, the challenge is going to be next week. There are still some spots. So people are asking, how do they get selected if they sign up for the challenge? And also if there's any type of fee for the challenge. So maybe can you once more summarize the main details of the challenge? And then for the viewers, just so you know, the link to the challenge is also in the video description below. So you can always come back to the video and hit the link and go there to read more.
Yeah, the challenge is $47 to join. So we made it about 1,000th of the cost to work directly with me in a mastermind setting, so that it's accessible to pretty much everybody. We did that on purpose. We knew exactly how many brands we wanted to work with this time based on the number of mentors we have. We keep a strict 8-to-1 participant to mentor ratio in the groups. We have 6 groups of 60 brands each available, like I mentioned before. And I'm forgetting, what was the other question? One was, is there a fee? And the other was, can't remember what the question was.
Fee, and then if is there like some kind of selection process, or if they sign up, are they automatically in for the challenge?
Yeah, so you have to be actively selling on Amazon. So it's not for people who are planning on starting to sell. you're just going to get lost. If you're about to launch, that's fine. If you already have your product selected and it's on the way or something like that, and you're about to launch, you can join. It will apply to you because we're going to go deep into the launch structure of PPC. But if Amazon selling is something that you don't do right now, but you're thinking about doing in the future, this is not for you. It's going to get too technical. It'll be way over your head. You should focus on other things. But active sellers, if you're actively selling and you need help with PPC, this is the place to be. And I'd love to have you guys in.
Awesome. Yeah, we got one more. Thank you for sharing valuable knowledge as always. So yeah,
Thank you for coming, Bhavna.
That's almost it for today. I wanted to say we have more viewers right now than we have likes to the video. So the fact that you stayed here for basically 1 hour and a half means that probably Chris shared some valuable information from you to you. So if you really enjoyed or learned something new, don't forget to like the video to support us and support Chris as well. Please join the challenge as well if it seems something that could help you on your journey to become more successful Amazon seller. And Chris, thanks again for taking the time to hang out with me today. It's always a pleasure, and I hope to see you soon again.
I loved it. Thanks, Lisette. This was an epic session. Can't wait for the next one.
Okay, see you soon. And now, very soon on the screen, you will find another video which we have recorded with Chris on our Orange Click YouTube channel about how you can use AI for your PPC to drive more profitable sales from your advertising efforts. So enjoy the next video and hope to see you soon during the next webinar as well.